years from now, right? What kind of world will our kids gonna live in? It's pretty scary, in my opinion. So I think mentorship is something that is really not talked about a lot, in our circle of friends, if you will. So I want to talk about that because, I think you'll never rise above your level of mentorship. You'll never rise above your level of expectation. And typically our expectation of ourselves, really, really bad, really suck, right? Because we don't typically look at ourselves as a worthy individual, right? Another thing that we're going to talk about a lot is self-image, because I remember when I first started my company, my self-image was really bad, really low, right? And the reason being is because I guess I never really had, I had great parents, but they never really mentored me, right? My dad was never there to really coach me, and I never really, I think we all want to win in life, but we don't know how. I think that's the best way to put it, we all want to win, but we just don't know how, right? And so we're going to talk a little bit about that. What does success look like? I think most people define success by just money, right? And that's how you kind of measure success in our society today. In my opinion, there's two types of success. There's financial success and then there's finance success, right? There's a lot of people that people in their society would look and say, wow, that doctor is successful, that accountant is successful, but the problem is he's in debt, right? So it's finance success, meaning all the things that you look at are all finance, right? And so you can look nice and smell good, look good on the outside, but if you're struggling in your marriage, you're struggling in your health, struggling in your other areas of your life, then are you considered successful? In my opinion, no. Right? I think you have to have all four pillars in your life solid to be considered successful, in my opinion. Okay, so financial success is when you are debt free, right? And you have that peace of mind. I call it pom pom, right? Plenty of money and peace of mind, right? And you really focus on because if you really think about it, what did you trade your life today for, and was it worth it, right? And from the day you were born, right, that hourglass is tipped over, right, and it doesn't matter what you do, clock keeps ticking, right? So I think sometimes we just have to really think long term. I think we're talking about dreams or vision or goals, whatever you want to talk about, or whatever you want to call it. We're going to talk about that because, again, it's not really talked about a lot, right? But for me, it's almost kind of like not having this. Well, basically 5 years from now, people get frustrated because they're going to be 5 years older and not much change in their life. Okay, so we really need to talk a lot about this. The analogy I like to use is that, let's just say there's 3 people, right, in this room, and I said, okay, we're going to have a contest, and who can put together this 1,000 pieces of puzzle together. So, first guy, right, we're given the full instruction, right? Which is a box that show how the end result should look like. Person number 2, you're given the pieces of the puzzle, but without the end result, without the box, so you don't know how it's supposed to look like. And person 3, you're given the same puzzle, but with the wrong cover, right? With the wrong end picture and how that looks like. So, if you were to be in a contest, all 3 of you, who will get to the end result faster? Obviously person 1, first person, because he knows how it's supposed to look like, right? So now when it comes to your life, do you know how you want the story to end, right? And if you don't, it's very difficult to put those pieces together because you have no clue. You don't even know where to start, right? And I think it's almost kind of like how most people 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 20 years from now, they have no clue, right, where they want to be in life. And you know what? I don't blame you. I didn't either, right? Most people, when I was asked 5 years from now, tell me exactly how you want to live, I'm like, 5 years? I don't even know what I'm going to do in the next 5 minutes, right? Let alone 5 years. But the reason why is because most of us are so programmed to focus on finding something that you like, don't worry about it. If you just find something that you like, because the mentality is that you're gonna work for 40 hours, 40 years of your life. So you better like it, because that's a long time, right? 40 hours or 40 years of your life. And hopefully, within that 40 years, during that time, you save enough money, right? And hopefully that you can live off that savings for the rest of your life when you finish working. But there's a problem. People start to realize that because of inflation, interest rate is 1% right now, which is, most people think it's a good thing when it's a low interest rate, because people always somehow think that there's always scarcity, right? Instead of abundance. So they think about, well, it's good because it's cheaper for me to borrow money. Then why is the mentality that you never have enough, that you're going to borrow your whole life? Why is it not, I don't need to, borrow money because I have enough, right? Because I have abundance. So, but the mentality is that 1% interest rate, people are excited because mortgage will be cheaper. But here's the problem for you and I, right? People that are younger generation. You have no chance to save, right? When your interest is 1%, but inflation is 3 to 4%, right? Your money is losing value every year. So even if you are very, very diligent, right? You're very good with your money. Let's say you save about $1 million by the time you retire. Now 40 years from now, $1 million probably won't worth the $1 million today, for sure, right? And it's probably worth half of that, if not probably less than that. So now the question is, how are you going to live off that if you're supposed to live longer? Because because with science, technology, medicine, all these things, we're going to live longer. So you're supposed to be excited, but you live longer. Most people are like, okay, well, I don't want to live longer because what if I run out of money, right? So the idea of making money on a 1-to-1 ratio is not really working anymore, because most people can't retire, right? Most people have debt, let alone savings. You know what I mean? Ask people that work at a bank, and they'll tell you, right? So we're going to talk a little bit about that, right? But the idea is that when you have a dream, when you know exactly how you want to be 5 years from now, it's very simple, right? Because you can basically ask yourself, the vehicle that I'm in right now, is that going to help me get there? If the answer is no, then something's got to change, right? Because we can't do the same thing over and over and over and expecting a different result, right? Albert Einstein says that that's the definition of insanity. Do the same thing over and over and over and expecting a different result, right? But sometimes most people don't, they know the answer. 5 years from now, they're just going to be 5 years older, but work for the government and whatnot. So in society's eyes, it's considered very, very successful. His wife was an RCMP detective, but he helped me understand that, Eric, I became a lawyer not because I wanted to. I became a lawyer because my mom, right, thought that I'd be a good lawyer. So ever since I was, little, that's the programming that I got. So for lack of better things to do, I became one. Now, he became a lawyer not because he did a proper research, not because he actually shadowed a local lawyer and said, okay, hey, let me shadow you for like two months, and let me really, get a real perspective on what the lifestyle is like. And if I like it, then I'm going to do it. He never did that. And as a matter of fact, his perception of being a lawyer is really false, because it's based on what he saw on TV, right? Which is fascinating how we define, a certain career or profession based on how Hollywood portrayed that profession to be. So he became one, realized 10 years later, because remember, in the beginning, everything is exciting, because there's a lot of learning curve, right? The first 2 to 3 years, a lot of growth, a lot of changes, a lot of stepping outside of your comfort zone. But then after you got good at something, and then you can do everything with your eyes closed, you just kind of like, okay, this is it, right? And you stop growing, you stop changing, and the law of evolution says if you're not growing, you're dying, right? There's no in between. So he started to kind of plateau, and he just said, is this it, right? Because in the beginning, he didn't mind working hard because he was single. But when he sat down with me, he helped me understand, Eric, one day, trust me, I was your age once, right? He said, one day, you're going to focus on creating time in your life. This is going to be the most important thing in your life. And when you were young, and you're single, you have all this energy, you don't mind working hard because you want to make money. But the problem is that one day you're going to have kids, you're going to have, a family, and you want to spend time with them. But the problem is, if you make money this way, you'll never have time because if you stop showing up, guess what? The income stops, right? So he was at that point in his life where he wanted change, right? He said, man, I just can't see myself retiring because how am I gonna be able to live without working and continue to have that residual income? So, and he worked on this project for a while. When I met him, he had just retired his wife, who was an RCMP detective, and I really got to learn from his mistake, right? You know, and I think if you ever meet someone who's successful in life, yes, you know, you want to hear a success story, but more importantly, you want to learn from their mistake. Because in my opinion, if you want to look further in life, you have to stand on the shoulder of giants, right? And borrow their wisdom and experience and learn from that. And I was able to learn from that, and Dave kind of really helped me understand how to think. Because really the difference between people that are very successful and people that are not is really one thing, it's how we think. Basically, we got 2 arms and 2 legs, we live in the same country, we have 24 hours in a day, we have the same government, right? But some people make it, some people don't. Why is that? It's how we think, self-image, right? How we look at ourselves. So, and what he helped me understand is to figure out, right, how do I want to live 5 years from now? Because he helped me understand that I was in this quadrant, and when he was in this quadrant, he realized that it doesn't matter how much he makes, as a matter of fact, the more he makes, the more he got taxed, the less he makes, right? And he said that when he started making about $100,000 a year, which majority of people that graduated university, I was in my 3rd year university studying business at the time, and I remember the goal was to be able to one day, you know, as a status and brag to people that I make 6 figures, right? And but he was already making that for a few years, and he helped me understand, Eric, but here's one thing that most people don't realize, especially college graduate, because we were sold this, you know, false promises, I guess, right? That if you just study, you know, hard and do exactly what we said that, you know, to do, you will be successful, right? So all of a sudden we graduated university and we felt more like entitled, like the world owes me, you know what I mean? And which is very, it's not our fault, but that's the problem, and people get really frustrated because you go out to the real world and it's the opposite, right? And all of a sudden now people start telling you that you're overqualified, right? And all of a sudden now you start getting all this, you know, BS of, oh, we need more experience, right? And just things like that, which is pretty interesting. So what Dave helped me understand is that, Eric, when you live in Canada, we have progressive tax income, so the more you make, the more you get taxed. As a matter of fact, if you make $40,000 a year, or $100,000 a year, you're going to be in a 40% tax bracket, right? So you're really going to take home about $60,000 a year, right? And on top of that, don't forget your 2 best friends, your GST and PSD, right? Now, you're really, on top of that, that's 12%. So now you're really left with $48,000. And this is why most people are in debt. It's because we think that we make $100,000, but we really take home net income $48,000, right? So what happens now is that the decision that we make on, the house we buy, the car that we buy, the trips that we take, and all these things is based on that gross income. But what in reality, this is really how much we make. So now we're going backwards every year, right? And this is why the majority of people in North America are in debt. And it gets worse and worse and worse, right? So, and what Dave helped me understand is that most people that are an A player, right, they're stuck in here. They said, you know what, I worked so hard and what the heck's going on here? And when they realized what's going on, they said, you know what, I'm going to go out here and instead of working for somebody, I'm going to work for myself. And they become small business owners or self-employed, right? And what happens here, you get, yes, you make a little bit more money, but now you definitely do not have time, right? Because when Dave opened up his own law firm, he realized that now he has to work longer. Because now he has to pay somebody to answer phones, right? Now he has to pay some, rent, right, to have an office, right, to sit down with his clients and whatnot. So now he has to work harder. Yes, he makes more money, but now he has less time, And he just realized that, it doesn't really matter how good or how busy his company is, he'll never be able to sell it, right? Because, and I'm like, what do you mean, Dave? It's your company. Sure, you can. He's like, no. If I were to sell it to you, most of my clients will not go to your, to see you because you're not a lawyer, right? You know what I mean? So they will look for me. So nobody would want to buy, just a company if the client base are not going to come with it, right? So and so that becomes an issue. And it doesn't really matter how good you are. The problem is when you, let's say something happened to you, knock on wood, you get into a car accident or you break your leg and you can't work for like a month or two. What's going to happen, right? No income, you know what I mean? And I know this quadrant very, very well because my dad was a small business owner, right? And, when he had this health challenge, right, and he, had multiple strokes and couldn't work actually forever. But he was in the hospital for 3 months and he just realized that, within that 3 months or 4 months, majority of his clients said bye-bye, right? And went look for somebody else. And there's always competition. There's always somebody that can, sell it cheaper than you, right? So, and that became an issue because, what, guys, when you are in your early 20s or, whatever else, or, mid-20s, you lose a job, typically you don't have a lot of responsibility yet, right? So you're just kind of like, okay, no big deal, I'll just find another one, right? You live at home typically, but here's the thing. I like to challenge you to think long-term a little bit. What happens if you're 50-something years old, right? And you got family to feed, you got mortgage to pay, and creditors are calling you, and they don't care what your story is, right? As a matter of fact, some of them are very, very mean, right? And there's plenty of time, I would